Sidney, you wanted to say something about this?
I remember the text that Bishop Ezra Martin had at our grandfather's funeral, referring to the hoary head, which is a great praise if it be acquired in righteousness or something like that. I looked it up, but I remember him speaking on that text.
Okay, just one other small little detail I got when Grandpa Hoffman had a little sale after his funeral. They had a little sale there, and I picked up a feed bag, that white flour bag that says J. Hoffman on it. And I had that folded up at home in a drawer.
Still have it?
I still have that, yeah. Actually, for years I used it to carry my hockey equipment to the arena. Anyway, just on that issue, what kind of a man was he, like, thinking spiritually? Was he a very austere, conservative man? Was he an easygoing man? Or wasn't that an issue even that you can think of him in those terms?
I remember standing at his foot end bed, and he was never very, he was not a sick man, but he said, you know, Sidney, I am glad that I had a chance to have a few days being sick, because I had no experience, and I don't know what other people are passing through being sick. I've never been sick a day in my life. But then when later in his latter 80s, after I got saved myself, I said to Grandfather, I'm just concerned, do you really believe in the Lord Jesus Christ? He says, whom else will I believe in? Of course I do. That's as far as I could get with it.
How did he react? Because he was basically all of you that basically left and were attending the assembly and so on, but he obviously never did he?
Well, no. But that was just at the time when he had already thought by the time he got saved. I don't know whether you would ever have witnessed to him.
Well, yes, we had the opportunity to speak to him, and at that time I remember quite well that he said to me, if you want to change, if you have to change, by all means, stay with the Mennonite. Stay with some kind of Mennonite, as long as a Mennonite. But do not go to this other new thing.
Okay. What about Aaron, his son? Did he start coming to the assembly before Joe died?
No.
Actually, when did Joe die? What year did Joe die?
1938.
1938, and the hall was only built in 39, eh?
Yes.
Gospel Hall. Okay. Any last things about Joe that you think of that?
I remember my dad referring, I didn't hear it, but my dad referring to a discussion. There were some other visitors there yet, and my dad, they had a debate about this new faith, you know, and my dad quoted John 5:24. Verily, verily. Now, of course, he did it in German, but my dad said, I'll quote it twice. The one time I'll quote it right, and the other time I'll quote it wrong, and then you tell me which is right. So he quoted, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that heareth my word and I don't know exactly how I said it, but it was definitely contrary. Will have, or if he will believe, he shall have everlasting life, and maybe will not come into judgment, and so on. But anyway, then my dad quoted it correctly after that, and then he said, no, that's heresy. Quoted correctly, he said that is heresy. That in no way is that right. Well, Dad said, I'm reading it out of the I'm reading it out of the Bible here.
I remember too that we would, in our part of the house, sometimes when uncles and aunts were there, we heard from our part a dispute about when they were counseling about this.
I see.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it didn't harmonize.
Yeah.
Stayed with it, and I would know that when the aunts would come over, that we had kind of discussion that wasn't too pleasant.
Your aunts, one of your aunts was a Mrs. Fry, eh?
Yeah.
Which one was that? Barbara? Or
Yeah. It was Israel's mother, Israel Fry's mother.
was her Fry's mother?
And
Okay.
then the other one was Susanna, that was Mrs. John Metzger.
Mrs. Metzger. Okay, so there's a Mrs. Metzger, Mrs. Fry, and Grandpa. And then there's one other one that was stillborn. It says you're Sarah with no dates.
Deaf and dumb.
Well, she was deaf and dumb.
Yeah.
She went to school in Belleville
Okay.
to talk with fingers.
Okay. Was she ever around home at all?
Yes, she was around home, but not in our day.
Okay. Okay.
But she was the youngest in the family.
And she was 23 when she died.
Okay.